Well, g'day all, Peter Clark here from OBrien Real Estate, and joined once again by Hailey Mitchell, and we're talking the Victorian Residential Tenancies Act updates coming on the 29th of March 2021, and we're going to talk about a very interesting change, and it is to modifications to properties. So I think there's a little bit to go through here, Hailey, so I'm just going to hand over to you. Let's talk about what tenant does or does not need permission to do.
First of all, there's going to be a prescribed list of modifications that a renter can make to a property without our consent. So basically we pop them in the property, we go through and do our first routine inspection at the 3-month mark, and they've got TV brackets on the walls, they've got their picture hooks up, they've secured items of furniture to surfaces, so your IKEA bookshelves and anything that's a falling risk or a safety risk for children. They might have a dryer bracket on the wall and that sort of thing, and that's absolutely allowed, and they do not have to ask permission for that moving forward. They've also added to the list installation of LED light globes, which don't require new light fittings. Installation of a water efficient shower head, as long as the original's retained, which means that they have to put it back up when they leave. Installation of blind or cord anchors, and then there's other things like security systems and lights, but only if they don't cause lasting damage. So more of those sort of portable units that they're allowed to do without permission, as long as they're not hardwired to the property. Also child safety gates, so they're going to be allowed to pop those up without our consent or our knowledge. And then they've got a few others that they've added in, so non-permanent window film for insulation, reduced heat transfer and privacy, installation of a wireless doorbell, replacement of curtains if the originals are retained, installation of adhesive child safety locks on doors and drawers, pressure mounted safety gates, and a lock on a letterbox. So that's all that's on the prescribed list, which means that renters can do all of those things without our permission. They do need to restore at the end of a tenancy, but though back to original condition subject to fair wear and tear. Now, the next list that we have are items that a renter can do that we can't unreasonably refuse consent for. So this is where they do need to ask for permission. So again, the picture hooks or screws for wall mount shelves and brackets on exposed brick or concrete walls. So the other was on painted walls, this is exposed brick or concrete. Again, safety gates, wall anchoring devices. This is one that I have a little bit of concern for. Draft proofing in homes without open flue gas heating, including installing weather seals, caulking or gap filling around windows, doors, skirting and floorboards. So have you ever used no more gaps? And yeah, you can make a bit of a mess with that.
Yes, it's not as simple as they show on the ads.
It's not.
No more gaps, but lots of mess.
Yeah, exactly. And then they've got security system, as long as it's done by a qualified person. Installation of fly screens on doors and windows, and I'm actually surprised that fly screens didn't come in under minimum standards. So again, these are things that the renter can do with our permission at their cost, and they have to restore at the end of a tenancy. Installation of a vegetable or herb garden, installation of a secure letterbox, and probably the one that's caused the most, I guess, nervousness with agents. Yeah. Painting of rented premises. So that wasn't in the original draft regulations. It's come through on the final regulations that we were given.
Given that it is possibly the one causing the most concern, let's have a talk about it. So a tenant, we can't unreasonably refuse.
Correct.
Or we have to give permission, providing it's reasonable for a tenant to choose to paint a wall.
Yep.
So if their child's bedroom wants to have a bright pink wall, we can't unreasonably refuse that.
That's right. But they do need to restore it back at the end of the tenancy to original condition as well. So it's not as bad as what everyone.
And can the rental provider or the agency ask for an increased bond to cover that additional work?
You can, as long as the cost to restore is more than $500. Right. So if it was just painting one wall, and to repaint that wall at the end of a tenancy will be $200, then no, because it's under that threshold. But if it's painting 2 rooms, for example, and it was $600 to restore, then absolutely you can. So I like that we can actually take a top-up bond, because we've never been able to do that under residential tenancies. And the only other one that's on there is putting on some external gates. So look, I don't think any of them are too bad. I think for the most part, you don't usually have renters that want to chuck $10,000 into your property doing renovations and repairs. The things that we'll get is, picture hooks on walls and maybe TV brackets on walls, and a little bit of painting.
And I think it's just about making sure that both our rental providers as well as our renters are educated around what is allowed, what's allowed with permission.
That's right.
Making sure those lines aren't blurred.
That's right. Yeah.
Fantastic. Guys, thanks for tuning in. We will be back with our next update very shortly.